Let's go. So what we're doing is this. If we go to Moodle at home, obviously we're not going to be able to do it here. We go to drama. Now, I'll do the 2x, the stage 2s first. If you go to your course of study, you're going to notice, first of all, now this is for both of you, the stage 2s and 3s. I've actually posted a link to the monologues. I told you that you need to find a monologue. If you go to that link, it'll be in stage 3 and stage 2. If you just go to that, that will take you instantly to where you got to go, which is a site that has, which is a monologue archive. Now there's heaps of monologues on there. There's heaps. So you'll be able to find whatever you want, and you'll be able to find it quite easily. So that's stage 2s and 3s. Now if you go back here, we'll start with stage 2s. Stage 2s, if you click on that, you'll be able to open up this doc. Right, and what it does is it's going to give you the first bit of information regarding what you're supposed to do. I'll just bring it over to you. Okay, now this is what you need to do with the production task. Now, while we haven't done any Konstantinovsky's workshops, we are going to do a couple of those. Once we've seen the production and you guys, and after next week, because I have to do a review workshop for you guys on how to write a review. Once we've done that, the week after, we're actually going to do a couple of workshops on Stanislavski to give the stage 2s and the stage 3 a bit of a reminder. So that's part 1, we'll be doing that. Part 2, this is what you need to do. You need to develop in point form what's called a 2-page director's vision. All right, and this is very important. It's not a huge document, it's just points. In terms of characters and context, message, themes and issues, possible venues for this production, which in this case we're using the gym, but you know you're doing physical spaces, so you'll be able to say, well, where else could I stage a production like this? And ideas for lighting, sound, set and costume. Now, when we're saying a 2-point director's version, if you chunk all those up, you'll get almost up to about 2 pages. When we mean points, they're just notes. Okay, this just your ideas. Now this goes into your journal, so that's for stage 2. Then obviously you're going to perform your script and so forth, and then so in terms of your drama journal, which is where you're keeping everything, because that's what we call it, you basically giving me the director's version. Your character analysis, we'll do that in about 4 weeks. All right, so I wouldn't worry too much about it yet. It's a character development sheet. The stage 3s have done them before. Any diagrams, all that sort of stuff that goes, any blocking diagrams. So in terms of your scripts, because I've asked you to block your scripts and to write all the information down and write what you're supposed to be doing, you really need to keep up to date with that. So, your script gets handed in, and then reflection and stuff we'll do later. So that's that particular task. Okay, if we go back to this, we go, what's part C? Part C, okay, what are you doing over here? This goddamn Mac. Okay, so this is your production role. Now the thing is, as I said to you, none of the actors are doing a production role, because I've got production people doing the production role. So we don't actually, for the first time in a long time, we don't actually have to use the actors to do anything. So what you need to do, and this is all by about week 10, right? So there's quite a bit of time by week 11, week 10, or by the end of the production. You need to undertake a production role. This is what you need to do. Review and clarify, undertake research of your role. So in this particular case, you guys are all going to do the dramaturge role. Now I'm going to explain to stage 2s today what a dramaturge is, right? And that's the role that all the stage 2s are going to undertake. Okay, now dramaturge we'll explain in a little while, but once you're going to research the roles of what a dramaturge does, review and clarify your understanding of the text. So, and we're talking about Rome, Sweet Rome, so it's not really a complicated text. You will be able to sort of like say, well, this is what goes on in the text. All right, it's really not that complicated. Evaluate how theatrical elements such as style, playwright intention, and context, and considerations of space affect the choices you make in this role. Once again, I'm just going to re-explain style to you guys so that you have a bit of a thing. Then to deconstruct the role, what are the role's responsibilities? So what are you supposed to do, which is part of your research? Prepare an annotated list of what steps you employ in successful realisation of your role. So if you were going to be that role, what 5 or 6 steps would you need to do to actually perform that role? Develop any diagrams that you need to support the role. So if you say, well, a dramaturge does a lot of research for a production, so you might just put one diagram, for example, what Nero's toga would look like. Okay, so it doesn't have to be anything really amazing. I don't need 50 diagrams of costumes. I would just need one. Provide reasons for the direct decisions you make in performing the role. So why you did what you did. Okay, so that's part C. And as I said, I'll explain this to any of the stage 2s that don't really know what we're talking about. And then, of course, the final one for you guys is part D. Open up. Open up. Okay, by the way, stage 2s, you got stage 1s, you know what you're supposed to be doing, so you can just go on doing that. Don't have to pay attention to me. Okay, and the other thing that you got to do in terms of a design role is basically this. You've got to do a costume and a set design. Okay? Once again, we're going to give you some more information on costumes and sets. We're going to do that over the next couple of weeks. We'll give you a handout on costume. So basically, when we think about design, we have to think about why we're actually doing it. So what's the purpose of a design? What's the role of designer? So if you're doing costume design, what's the purpose of that? Obviously to create costumes. When you look at what is the role of the designer, well, not only is their purpose is to create costumes, but obviously their role is to work in league with the director and come up with what would be a workable costume for that production. Okay, that's pretty obvious. And then, of course, in terms of design elements, there's things like stage, shape, form, texture, colour. If you're going to create a costume, for example, you're going to have to say, well, what exactly am I using for this costume? Am I going to use, I'm going to use black material, am I going to use white material, am I going to use red material? If I'm creating a costume for Nero, what colour would I use? Would I use purple? What kind of material? If you know anything about material, you don't have to be too crazy, but you might say, oh, I might use crushed velvet, or I might use something really shiny. If you say shiny material, I'd be happy with that, right? In terms of set designs, what sort of space you're designing for, and obviously we're using the stage here. But if you say, well, I think we could use this type of stage, then you're designing for that. And say, well, how would we create a set for that, and so forth. So develop your ideas. Make a collage of your design ideas, develop a design brief, prepare some draft designs, and then give you your final designs. So that's what basically needs to be done with that. I'm going to speak to stage 2 a bit more in a minute. Okay, now, stage 3s. Let's go back to this. Stage 3s, stage 3s, stage 3s. Here we go. Okay, stage 3s. You guys have got yours on there. Now, as you know, stage 3's task 1, part B is your monologue. All right, I've put it up there. I've clarified it a bit more for you. I don't need to go on about that. You only need to do part A and part C. You don't have a part D. Part A, we've explained this for you guys. Okay, come on, let's go. Why is it always coming over here? Okay, stage 3's. Stage 3, this is what you need to do. In your particular case, the play is musical and requires versatility. This is what you need to do. You obviously read the play, read through that. That's not really going to be that complicated for stage 3s. You guys have done a lot of this sort of stuff before. I'm not going to read through all that for you. But if you read that, that'll give you a pretty good idea of what you're supposed to be doing. In terms of your preparation for Task 1 Part A, the paperwork for this isn't really huge. It's just a case of all the bits and pieces that you need to put together. So if you read through that, I've annotated it, I've made it as clear as I can, but I'm not going to sit here and go through it for hours with you because I think you guys are smart enough to do that, and I want people to be able to get on with their work. Go back to this. Now, Part C is a little bit different for you guys, so we'll go through that. Why does it do this? It's a silly, silly computer. All right, here we go. Now, in terms of your production role, now remember, you guys are doing it for face-to-face, okay? Stage 3s, you're doing it for face-to-face. The choices are you can either do dramaturge, costume design, lighting design, or set design. They're your 4 choices, okay, in terms of what you're going to do. Okay, now for this, preparation for your production role. Undertake research of your role. Review and clarify understanding of the text and how your role will assist in the development process of the production. So if you're doing costume design, you've got to know what a costume designer does. You've got to say, well, how's that going to work in terms of the process of production? So you need to know what steps they take. Evaluate how theatrical elements of style, playwright intention, context, considerations of space will affect the choices you make in this role. That's very impacting, especially for lighting and set design, because if you do lighting, the type of space that you're going to use in lighting is going to really affect what kind of lighting you're going to use. If it's a small space like our drama room, that would be one thing. If it's a huge auditorium, it's going to be something different. Deconstruct the role. What are the role's responsibilities? Prepare an annotated list of steps you employ in the successful realisation of the role. So what does a person have to do? This is really... Remember, all of you who are doing this, this is really applicable to your exam, because you're constantly asked in exams when you do a script analysis, justify the steps you take in your role, or justify what that role requires. So this information is directly relevant to your examination. If you can do this, if you're able to work through a role's responsibilities and the sort of steps that a person takes, when you approach the exam, you're going to find it really quite simple, because you're already thinking in terms of that process. Develop any annotated diagrams, blah, blah, blah. Provide reasons for decisions you make in performing the role. The script, select a section. Now, for stage 3s, select a section of the script using annotations to indicate examples that support your decision making in the performance of the role. Okay? So select a section of the script as an example. So if you say, in this particular scene, I've got these 5 characters. Okay? This is how I would light it. This is how I'm doing this. Or as a dramaturge, obviously... it's not really about selecting a section of the script, except that if you do, then the dramaturg, make sure it relates very, very specifically to what you're talking about in terms of style or in terms of playwright intention. That includes emotional content and things like that. So if you select a section of the script, which is a really charged section of the script, like really emotionally charged and people getting really upset, then that really lends itself to what the dramaturge's role was all about in finding out what TGA conferencing and stuff can do. Okay? To me, it's a little bit of common sense. If it's not common sense to you, then you have to let me know. Once again, in this, you guys have your monologue link there, so you can go to there. Now, stage 3s, I apologise for not putting up your tutorials. I'm going to do it today. My internet wasn't allowing me to do it. All right, so I'll put them up for you today. Now, are there any questions regarding this? Stage 2 might have more questions than stage 3s. If stage 2s have a question, we can have a little circle thing and I can go through stuff with you. All right, so stage 2s, how are you guys going with this? Does it make any sense to you at all? Yeah, it does? Okay, good.
You sort of explained the dramaturg stuff to us last week.
Yeah, well, that's it. I'm not sure what I'd tell you from one minute to the next. You know why? Because I don't know what I'm doing.
Because you're on crack.
It has been known. Okay, so I can stop that now because I don't need that information on the